I want you to imagine something. Imagine that 24 hours before you were born, a genie appeared to you. He said, "You can design the world you are about to enter. You can decide the political system, the economy, and the social rules. But there is a catch. You do not know who you're going to be in that world. You do not know if you'll be born black or white. You do not know if you'll be male or female. You do not know if you'll be born intelligent or slow, strong or weak. You simply have to pull a ball out of a barrel, and that ball determines your destiny. I call this the ovarian lottery. I won this lottery. I was born in the United States in 1930. I was born white. I was born male. And I was born with a specific wiring in my brain that happens to fit perfectly with a capitalist system. If I had been born in the 1200s, my talent for allocating capital would have been useless. I would have been some animal's lunch. So I admit it. I am lucky. But here's the brutal truth that nobody likes to talk about. Luck is just the starting line. It is not the finish line. I have seen people who, won the ovarian lottery. They were born rich. They were born smart. They were born beautiful, and they died miserable. They wasted every single advantage they were given. And I have seen people who were dealt a terrible hand. They were born into poverty. They faced discrimination. They had no connections. And yet they built lives of immense meaning and power. What is the difference? It is not IQ. It is not talent. It is their operating system. Most people go through life drifting. They are like a boat without a rudder. They let the current society push them. They let their parents' expectations push them. They let the advertisers on television push them. They have no rules. They only have reactions. If you live by reaction, you will always be a slave to your environment. To win the game of life, you need a code. You need a set of iron laws that you never break, no matter what the world throws at you. Over my 90 years, I have made thousands of investments. I have made billions of dollars. But the most important investments I ever made were not in stocks. They were in principles. Today, I am going to share with you the 5 life rules that built my character. These are not hacks. These are not shortcuts. These are the algorithms that reprogram your brain from drifting to designing. If you follow them, I cannot promise you will become a billionaire, but I can promise you this. You will never look back at your life with regret. Let's begin now. Let us move to the first rule. Rule 1, the art of subtraction, the 25-5 rule. And I want to start with a paradox. We live in the richest time in human history. We have more information, more technology, and more opportunities than any generation before us. And yet, look around. Are people happier? Are they more successful? No. They're anxious. They're overwhelmed. They are paralyzed. Why? Because they're drowning in more. Most people operate under a false assumption. They think that to get more out of life, they have to put more into life. They think, if I want to be rich, I need to start 3 businesses. If I want to be smart, I need to read 10 different subjects at once. If I want to be popular, I need to say yes to every dinner invitation. This is the addition trap, and it is the fastest way to mediocrity. To win in this world, you do not need to add, you need to subtract. Let me tell you a story about my personal pilot, Mike Flint. Mike is a great guy. He flew my private jet for 10 years. He was talented, he was hardworking, and he had big dreams. But one day, I looked at him and I saw frustration in his eyes. He felt stuck. He felt like he was running on a treadmill, lots of movement, but no forward progress. So we sat down in the cockpit, and I asked him to do a little exercise. I said, Mike, I want you to take a piece of paper, and I want you to write down the top 25 things you want to achieve in your lifetime. He took some time. He wrote down everything: career goals, family goals, health goals, hobbies. He wanted to master 25 items. And I said, okay, Mike, now look at this list. I want you to circle the top 5, the absolute non-negotiable top 5. This was hard for him, because when you look at a list of 25 dreams, they all look good. They all look important. He sweated over it. He crossed things out. He put them back. But eventually, after 30 minutes, he circled 5. Now, he had 2 lists. List A was the 5 circled items. List B was the 20 items he didn't circle. I asked him, Mike, what are you going to do with list B, the other 20? Mike smiled confidently. He said, well, Warren, that top 5 are my primary focus, but the other 20 are still very important to me. So I will work on them intermittently when I have a free weekend or when I have some spare energy. I will chip away at them. They are my secondary priorities. I looked him dead in the eye, and I said words that changed his life. I said, no, Mike, you've got it wrong. Those 20 items you did not circle, they are not your secondary priorities. They are your enemies. From this moment on, that list is your avoid-at-all-costs list. You must not give them a single second of your attention. You must not give them a single ounce of your energy. You must treat them like they are toxic waste until, and only until, you have succeeded with the top 5. Mike was shocked, and most people are shocked when they hear this. Why would I call a good goal an enemy? Here is the brutal truth about human psychology. Bad ideas are not the problem. You are smart enough to avoid bad ideas. You know that smoking crack is a bad idea. You know that gambling your life savings is a bad idea. The problem is the good ideas. The problem is the project that is pretty interesting. The problem is the business opportunity that is quite promising. The problem is a relationship that is comfortable. These things are dangerous because they are seductive. They are good enough to justify spending your time on them. They are good enough to make you feel productive, but they are not great. And because they are not great, they will never give you the compound returns of a great idea. But they will steal the fuel you need for the great idea. You have a limited amount of energy every day. You have a limited amount of cognitive bandwidth. If you spread that energy across 25 things, you will move all of them forward by 1 inch. But if you pour all that energy into 5 things, you will move them forward by a mile. And in the game of life, the person who moves a mile wins. The person who moves an inch is invisible. Think about a magnifying glass. If you move the magnifying glass around, shining the sun on 20 different spots on a piece of paper, nothing happens. The paper just gets a little warm. But if you hold the magnifying glass still, if you focus the entire power of the sun onto one single tiny dot, what happens? Fire. You get fire. That is the power of the 25-to-5 rule. It turns you from a flashlight into a laser beam. But I warn you, this is painful. Pruning is painful. When you look at that list of 20 things you have to delete, your ego will scream. Your ego wants to be everything to everyone. Your ego wants to learn French, learn coding, run a marathon, start a podcast, and be a great chef, all at the same time. Your ego is afraid of missing out, but you must tell your ego to shut up. You must accept the pain of elimination. You have to look at a perfectly good project, a project that can make you money, a project that could be fun, and you have to take it behind the barn and shoot it. You have to kill it, not because it is bad, but because it is not the best. We live in a world that glorifies busyness. Busyness has become a status symbol. People wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor. They say, oh, I am so busy. I'm working on 10 different things. When I hear that, I do not hear success. I hear lack of focus. I hear chaos. Busyness is the anesthesia of the mediocre. It is a drug you take to avoid the hard work of making a choice. If you are busy, you don't have to face the scary question. What is actually important? If you are busy, you can pretend you are making progress. But motion is not progress. A rocking chair has a lot of motion, but it never goes anywhere. You need to stop rocking and start moving. So here is your assignment for this rule. Tonight, when you go home, I want you to make your list. Be honest with yourself. Write down everything you think you want, and then I want you to take a red pen. I want you to be ruthless. I want you to become a gardener who is pruning a tree. A gardener does not cut a branch because he hates the branch. He cuts the branch because he loves a tree. He knows that if the tree tries to grow in 20 directions at once, it will be weak. It will collapse under its own weight. But if he cuts away the excess, the tree will grow tall. It will grow strong. It will reach the sky. You are the tree. Cut away the good. Make room for the great, and do not look back. Now we arrive at the second rule. This is the hardest one to master. Rule 2, the inner scorecard, mastering the ego. I call this the inner scorecard. My father, Howard Buffett, taught me this when I was very young, and I can honestly say that without this rule, I would not be wealthy today. I would be broken. He sat me down and said, Warren, there are two ways to live your life. You can live by the outer scorecard, or you can live by the inner scorecard. The outer scorecard is based on what other people think of you. It is based on reputation, image, applause, and validation. The inner scorecard is based on what you think of yourself. It is based on your own standards, your own logic, and your own integrity. Most people, and I mean 99% of the population, live by the outer scorecard. They make decisions based on how it will look to their neighbors. They choose careers based on how it will sound at a cocktail party. They buy houses based on how impressed their friends will be. To find out which scorecard you're using, I have a very simple, very brutal test. I want you to ask yourself this question. Would you rather be the world's greatest lover, but have everyone think you are the world's worst lover? Or would you rather be the world's worst lover, but have everyone think you are the world's greatest? Think about that for a minute. If you choose the second option, if you want to be terrible in reality but look great to the public, then you are living by the outer scorecard. You are living a lie. You are an actor performing for an audience. And the problem with being an actor is that you are a slave to the audience. If they clap, you are happy. If they boo, you are destroyed. If your self-worth comes from the outside, you are constantly vulnerable. You are like a leaf in the wind. But if you choose the first option, if you are willing to be the greatest lover in the world, even if everyone thinks you are a failure, then you are free. You are living by the inner scorecard. You know the truth, and the truth is enough for you. We live in a world that is obsessed with the outer scorecard. We have built entire industries around it. Social media is the ultimate outer scorecard machine. People go into debt to buy cars they cannot afford, just to impress people they do not even like. People post photos of their perfect vacations, their perfect meals, and their perfect bodies. But behind the camera, they are depressed, they are lonely, they are empty. They are trading their inner peace for outer validation. And let me tell you, that is a terrible trade. It is the worst investment you can ever make. I have faced the pressure of the outer scorecard many times in my life, but the most difficult time was the late 1990s. It was the dot-com bubble. Think everyone was getting rich buying technology stocks. Companies that had no profit, no revenue, and sometimes no product were doubling in value every single week. My neighbors were getting rich. People who knew nothing about investing were making millions overnight, and the whole world looked at me. It looked at Berkshire Hathaway, and they laughed. The newspapers wrote articles saying, Warren Buffett is old. Warren Buffett is obsolete. He does not understand the new economy. He has lost his touch. Even my own investors were angry. They called me. They said, Warren, why are we not buying these internet stocks? Look at how much money everyone else is making. You are being stubborn. The pressure was immense. If I lived by the outer scorecard, I would have panicked. I would have bought those tech stocks just to make the criticism stop. I would have wanted to look smart, but I looked at my inner scorecard. I sat in my office in Omaha, and I looked at the math. The math said these companies were worth zero. The math said this was a mania. The math said it was going to end in disaster. So I did nothing. I sat on my hands. I let them call me an idiot. I let them call me a dinosaur. I went home every night, and I slept like a baby because I knew I was right. And then the clock struck midnight in the year 2000. The bubble burst. The stocks that were going to the moon crashed to the earth. People lost their life savings. The geniuses of Wall Street were suddenly bankrupt, and I was still standing. The inner scorecard protects you from the madness of the crowd. It allows you to be right when everyone else is wrong. It allows you to stay calm when the world is pruning. But building an inner scorecard is not easy. It requires a tremendous amount of intellectual independence. You have to be willing to look like a fool. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. There's a great freedom that comes when you stop caring what people think, when you stop asking, will they like this? And you start asking, is this right? When you detach your self-worth from the opinions of others, you become dangerous. You become unshakable. You can walk into a room wearing a cheap suit and feel more confident than a guy wearing a $10,000 suit because you know who you are. True freedom is not having $1 billion. True freedom is knowing that if everything was taken away from you tomorrow, if your money was gone, If your reputation was gone, if your status was gone, you would still be okay because your value is inside you, not around you. So here is your assignment for this rule. The next time you're about to make a decision to buy something, a decision to post something, a decision to say something, stop and ask yourself, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for me? Or am I doing this for the audience? If nobody could see it, if nobody could know about it, would I still do it? If the answer is no, then don't do it. Build your house on the rock of your own standards, not on the sand of public opinion. Rule 3, the circle of competence, knowing your edge. Now we arrive at the third rule. I call this the circle of competence. If you walked into my office in Omaha, you would see a very boring desk. I do not have a computer. I do not have a Bloomberg terminal. I do not have 7 screens flashing red and green numbers. But I have 3 boxes. One says in, one says out, and one says too hard. And here's a secret that has made me billions of dollars. 99% of the papers that land on my desk go immediately into the too hard box. Most people spend their lives trying to clear the inbox. I spend my life filling the too hard box. This brings us to a fundamental misunderstanding about intelligence. We are trained from the age of 5 to believe that we must have an answer for everything. Think about your time in school. You sit in a classroom. The teacher asks a question about chemistry. If you raise your hand and say, I do not know, what happens? You are punished. You get a bad grade. You are humiliated in front of your peers. So you learn to fake it. You learn to guess. You learn to pretend you understand things that you do not understand. And this conditioning follows you into adulthood. You go to a dinner party, and someone starts talking about cryptocurrency or artificial intelligence or the geopolitical situation in the Middle East, and you feel this pressure to have an opinion. You feel this pressure to sound smart. But in the game of wealth and the game of life, I do not know is the most profitable phrase in the English language. You do not have to be an expert on everything. In fact, if you try to be an expert on everything, you will be an expert on nothing. You only have to understand one thing, but you must understand it better than anyone else. This is your circle of competence. Inside the circle, you are safe. Inside the circle, you have an edge. Inside the circle, you are the predator. Outside the circle, you are the prey. Tom Watson, the founder of IBM, was one of the smartest businessmen in history. He said something that I have carried with me for 50 years. He said, I am no genius. I am smart in spots, and I stay around those spots. The problem with most smart people is that they do not know where their spots are. They think their intelligence is like a liquid that can flow into any container. They think, because they are a brilliant brain surgeon, they can also run a restaurant, or because they are a great software engineer, they can pick real estate stocks. This is the arrogance of intellect, and it is how smart people go broke. To master this rule, you must understand the philosophy of Ted Williams. Ted Williams was the greatest baseball hitter who ever lived. He wrote a book called The Science of Hitting. In that book, he included a diagram of the strike zone. He carved the strike zone into 77 little cells, each the size of a baseball. He studied his own performance for years, and he found a mathematical truth. He said, if I swing at a ball on my sweet spot, right in the middle of the zone, I will bat .400. I will be a legend. But if I swing at a ball on the lower corner, just 2 inches away from my sweet spot, I will only bat .230. I will be mediocre. Now, here's the critical difference between baseball and life. In baseball, if the pitcher throws a ball into the strike zone and you do not swing, the umpire yells strike. You are forced to swing. You are forced to act. But in the game of life, there are no called strikes. The market can throw you a Microsoft opportunity, and you can look at it and say, I do not understand technology, and you let it go by. The market can throw you a Bitcoin opportunity, and you can say, I do not understand crypto, and you let it go by. The market can throw you 1,000 different pitches, and you can stand there with your bat on your shoulder for days, for months, even for years. The crowd will scream at you. They will say, swing, you idiot, swing. Look at all the money you are missing. But you do not have to swing. You can wait. You can wait for that one perfect, fat pitch, The one that comes right down the middle, the one that lands exactly in your sweet spot, the one you understand perfectly. And when you see that pitch, you do not just swing. You swing with all your might. You step into it, and you hit it out of the park. This sounds easy, but it is incredibly difficult. It is difficult because of the ego. Your ego wants to swing at everything. Your ego wants to be part of the conversation. Your ego hates the feeling of missing out. When your neighbor makes money on a stock you did not buy, it hurts. It feels like you lost money. But you did not lose money. You just missed a pitch that was outside your circle. If you try to chase every opportunity, you will eventually swing at a curveball that you do not understand, and you will strike out. You see, the size of your circle does not matter. You can have a huge circle like Charlie Munger, or you can have a tiny circle. Maybe you only understand small local car washes. That is fine. You can get rich owning car washes. The size of the circle is not the factor. The factor is the definition of the perimeter. You must know exactly where the line is. You must be able to say, this falls inside and this falls outside. If you are standing on the line, if you are saying, well, I kind of understand it, then you are already in danger. Kind of understanding is the same as not understanding. In a world that rewards specialization, the generalist is the victim. So here is your assignment for this rule. I want you to take a piece of paper, and I want you to draw a circle. Inside that circle, write down the things you genuinely understand, things you have studied for 10 years, the things you can predict with 90% accuracy. It might be a very short list. It might only be one thing. That is okay. Now, outside the circle, write down everything else. The things you read about in the news, the things your friends talk about, the things you think you should know. And then make a pledge to yourself. I will never bet my money or my time or my reputation outside of the circle. I will let the rest of the world play their games. I will stay in my spot. I will wait for my pitch. Rule 4. The citadel of reputation, the newspaper test. Now we arrive at the 4th rule. I call this the citadel of reputation. If you study history, you will see that the greatest empires were not built on gold. They were not built on armies. They were built on something much more fragile, yet much more powerful. They were built on trust. And if you study the people who failed, the people who rose to the top and then crashed and burned, you will see that they almost always fail for the same reason. They try to trade their reputation for money. I have a very simple rule. When I hire people to run my companies, and remember, Berkshire Hathaway has hundreds of thousands of employees. I cannot watch them all. So I look for 3 qualities. I look for intelligence, I look for energy, and I look for integrity. And here's the critical part. If they do not have the last one, if they do not have integrity, then I want them to be dumb and lazy. Think about the physics of this. If you hire someone who is dishonest, and that person is also stupid and lazy, they cannot do much damage. They will just sit there and steal a few pencils. But if you hire someone who is dishonest, and they are highly intelligent, and they have high energy, you have just hired a professional machine that is designed to destroy you. They will use their intelligence to find the loopholes in your system. They will use their energy to exploit those loopholes 24 hours a day. They will burn your house down. So, integrity is the gatekeeper. It is the filter through which all other talent must pass. But I want to go deeper than just hiring. I want to talk about your personal economy. Most people think of integrity as a moral burden. They think it is something that stops them from having fun or stops them from making easy money. They are wrong. Integrity is the ultimate economic moat. In a world that is becoming increasingly transparent, in a world where everyone has a camera and everyone has a keyboard, you cannot hide anything anymore. If you cut corners, you will be caught. It might take a year. It might take 10 years. But the truth always has a way of leaking out. And when it does, the tax you pay is infinite. If people do not trust you, every single interaction in your life becomes expensive. You have to sign long contracts. You have to hire lawyers. You have to double-check everything. People will not give you the benefit of the doubt. This is called friction cost. But if you have a reputation for unshakable integrity, people know that your handshake is better than a contract. Then you have a trust premium. Deals come to you faster. Problems get solved quicker. People want to work with you. People want to invest with you. You become a magnet for quality. So, how do you build the citadel? How do you ensure that you never cross the line? You use a tool that I have used every day for the last 50 years. I call it the newspaper test. It works like this. Before you do anything, before you send that email, before you sign that deal, before you make that comment, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine that tomorrow morning a reporter writes a story about what you just did, and that story is published on the front page of your local newspaper or on the front page of the New York Times. I want you to imagine your spouse reads it, your children read it, your neighbors read it, your coworkers read it. They are all sitting at the breakfast table, drinking their coffee and reading the details of your action. How do you feel? Do you feel proud? Do you feel comfortable? Or do you feel a knot in your stomach? Do you feel the heat rising in your face? Do you feel the urge to explain or to hide? If you feel even a tiny bit of shame, if you feel even a 1% hesitation, then do not do it. It does not matter if it is legal. There are plenty of things that are legal but are wrong. It does not matter if everyone else is doing it. The crowd is often wrong. It does not matter if you think you will not get caught. The test is not about getting caught. The test is about who you are when nobody is watching. We live in a world of gray areas. The line between right and wrong is often blurry. Your brain is very good at rationalizing. It will tell you, just this once. It will tell you, nobody will get hurt. It will tell you, I deserve this. The newspaper test cuts through the rationalization. It shines a bright light on the dark corners of your logic. Remember this formula. It takes 20 years to build a reputation, and it takes 5 minutes to ruin it. 5 minutes, one stupid text message, one dishonest trade, one moment of anger. And once it is gone forever. Reputations are like fine china. You can break in a second. And yes, you can glue the pieces back together. You can apologize. You can try to fix it. But the cracks will always show. The structure is weakened. So, here is your assignment for this rule. I want you to conduct an audit of your life. Look at your business practices. Look at how you treat your employees. Look at how you talk about your friends behind their backs. Is there anything you are doing right now that would fail the newspaper test? Is there any secret you are keeping that would destroy you if it became public? If there is, you need to stop it immediately. You need to clean house. You need to build a citadel that is so strong that even if they turn the lights on, you would have nothing to hide. Because in the long run, being a good person is actually the most selfish thing you can do. It pays the highest dividends, and it lets you sleep at night. Rule 5, the long game, the power of compound interest. And finally, we arrive at the 5th rule. I call this the long game. Albert Einstein is often quoted as saying that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He said, "He who understands it earns it. He who does not pays it." Most people nod their heads when they hear this. They think they understand it. They think it means, if I save $1 today, it will be worth $2 in 10 years. But they do not really understand it, because if they did, they would not live the way they do. Here is the truth. Compound interest is not just about money. It is the fundamental law of the universe. It applies to biology. It applies to relationships. It applies to knowledge. It applies to everything. Let me give you an example. For my own life, people look at my wealth today and they see the result. They see the billions. They see the headlines. They do not see the variables in the equation. There are 3 variables in the compound interest formula. There is a principal, that is how much you start with. There is a rate of return, that is how smart you are. And there is time, that is how long you wait. Most people focus on the principal. They try to get a lot of money to start, or they focus on a rate of return, and they try to find the hottest stock that will double in a month, but they ignore time, and time is the exponent. Time is a heavy lifter. 99% of my net worth was accumulated after my 50th birthday. Think about that. If I had retired at age 30, I would be a footnote in history. If I had retired at age 40, I would be just another wealthy guy in Omaha. If I had retired at age 50, you would not know my name. The magic did not happen at the beginning. The magic happened at the end, because the snowball had been rolling for 60 years. I call my biography The Snowball for a reason. Life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow and a really long hill. The wet snow is the capital and the opportunities. But the long hill is the time you have to stay on the hill. You have to keep rolling. You cannot stop. You cannot melt. You cannot hit a tree. And this brings us to the hardest part of the long game. The hardest part is not the math. The hardest part is the psychology, because compounding is boring. It is excruciatingly boring. You go to the gym for a day. You look in the mirror, nothing has changed. You go to the gym for a week. You look in the mirror, nothing has changed. You go to the gym for a month. You look in the mirror, maybe, just maybe, you see a tiny difference. Most people quit right there. They say, this is not working. I am putting in the effort, but I am not seeing the result. They want the result now. They are addicted to immediate gratification. We live in a TikTok world. We live in a world of 15-second videos. We live in a world where if you order a package and it does not arrive in 2 days, you get angry. This culture destroys your ability to play the long game. It makes you chase shortcuts. It makes you gamble. It makes you fragile. If you want to win, you have to be willing to be bored. You have to be willing to do the unsexy work. You have to be willing to read 500 pages a day when nobody is watching. You have to be willing to eat healthy food when everyone else is eating fast food. You have to be willing to invest in boring companies that make ketchup and razor blades while your friends are buying crypto and flying to Dubai. You have to survive the flat part of the curve. That flat part is where the separation happens. That is where the boys are separated from men. I have a friend who is a bodybuilder. He told me something very profound. He said, Warren, everyone wants to be a bodybuilder, but nobody wants to lift no heavy-ass weights. The same is true for wealth. Everyone wants to be rich, but nobody wants to buy a stock and hold it for 30 years without touching it. People interrupt the compounding process unnecessarily. They get scared when the market drops, so they sell. That is like planting a tree and then digging it up every week to see if the roots are growing. You will kill the tree. There's a Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. I love that saying. I am sitting in the shade of trees today that I did not plant. I am sitting in the shade of trees that were planted by people 50 years ago, and I am planting trees today that I will never sit under. That is the definition of the long game. It is understanding that you are building something bigger than yourself, something that will outlast you. So here is your assignment for this rule. I want you to look at your habits, not your goals. Your goals are for people who want to win once. Habits are for people who want to win repeatedly. Look at what you do every single day. Are you reading? Are you learning? Are you saving? Are you building trust? If you do something every day, no matter how small it will compound. If you read 20 pages a day, that is 7,000 pages a year. That is 30 books a year. In 10 years, that is 300 books. Do you think reading 300 books will change your life? Of course it will. It will transform you. But you have to start today, and you have to do it again tomorrow and the day after that. You do not need to be the smartest person in the room. You do not need to be the fastest person in the room. You just need to be the most consistent person in the room. Intensity is overrated. Consistency is underrated. If you can keep rolling your snowball, if you can survive the boredom, if you can wait while others are rushing, you will look back in 50 years, and you will be astounded by what you have built. You will have created your own wonder of the world. We have arrived at the end. We have talked about the ovarian lottery. We have talked about the art of subtraction. We have talked about the inner scorecard, the circle of competence, the citadel of reputation, and the long game. But there's one final test, the ultimate test. I call this the obituary test. Conclusion: the obituary test, reverse engineering life. When I look around at the world, I see people chasing the wrong things. They are chasing numbers on a screen. They are chasing titles on a business card. They are chasing the admiration of strangers, and they think that if they get enough of these things, they will be happy. But I can tell you from my vantage point at 90 years old that they are wrong. I have known people who had everything. They had the yachts. They had the private jets. They had the buildings named after them. They had dinner with presidents. But when they reached the end of their lives, nobody loved them. Their children did not talk to them. Their spouses were only waiting for the inheritance. Their friends were not real friends. They died in the most expensive hospital rooms in the world, surrounded by the best doctors money could buy. But they died alone. And to me, that is the definition of failure. I do not care how much money you have in the bank. If you reach my age and nobody thinks well of you, your life has been a disaster. So how do you avoid this disaster? You avoid it by reverse engineering your life. Most people live life forward. They react to what happens today. I want you to live life backward. I want you to fast forward to the day of your funeral. Imagine you are in a casket, and the people who matter most to you are standing there. What do you want them to say? Do you want them to say, he was a great businessman? Do you want them to say, he made a lot of money? Or do you want them to say, he was kind, he was generous, he was there when I needed him, he made me a better person? Write your obituary today. Not the one that will be in the newspaper, but the one you want written in the hearts of the people you love. And then, once you have written it, look at your life today. Are you living that obituary? Are you being the person you want to be remembered as? If the answer is no, then you need to change, and you need to change now, because the clock is ticking. The game does not last forever. Money is important. I've spent my life making it. It gives you freedom. It solves problems. But money cannot buy love. You can buy sex. You can buy testimonials. You can buy the appearance of love. But you cannot buy the real thing. The only way to get love is to be lovable. It is very irritating. If you have a lot of money, you would like to think you could write a check that says, I will buy $1 million worth of love, but it does not work that way. The more you give love away, the more you get. If you understand this, you have understood the most important rule of all. So as we close this session, I have one final request for you. Do not let this be just another video you watch on the internet. Do not let this be just another dopamine hit that makes you feel smart for 10 minutes. Information without action is useless. Wisdom without execution is vanity. I want you to take one of these rules, just one, and I want you to apply it today. Maybe you need to make your 25 to 5 list and kill your distractions. Maybe you need to stop caring about what your neighbors think. Maybe you need to say, I do not know, more often. Maybe you need to pass the newspaper test. Or maybe you just need to be patient and plant a tree. Whatever it is, do it. The world is full of people who know what to do, but the world is owned by the people who actually do it. You have won the ovarian lottery just by being here, just by having the technology to watch this, just by having a brain that can understand this. Do not waste your ticket. Play the game. Play it hard. Play it fair. And play it for the long run. That's all. Thanks for watching.